Hi, it's Kalia Halterali here, real estate investor coach in Washington, D.C. And today I want to take some time to talk to you about how to organize your leads. And it could be buyer leads, seller leads, but basically how to organize your leads. And so there's different ways to organize them, and definitely doing it by hand and keeping it on a sheet of paper is not the most effective way. So let me give you two ways that I suggest that you keep track of your leads. When you're first getting started, you may not want to spend a lot of time, or you may not want to pay to actually have a system. So you may actually just do it using an Excel sheet. So you can use Google Docs. If you don't have Microsoft Excel, you can actually use Google Sheets. It's similar to Google Docs, but it's Google Sheets. I think Microsoft actually has a similar product for people who have like Hotmail and Live and all those things. But basically, you can use one of those sheets to actually keep track of your leads. And what you're primarily interested in keeping track of course, you got the property address, the point of contacts information. But some other key pointers that you want to do is you definitely want to keep track of the comments from your call. So like if you call somebody, you leave a voicemail, you need to put like LM or just something reminding you that you left a message for that person. The next one you can do is actually write down the date that you talked to them. So like, let's say you have your spreadsheet, it's going across for the record that you spoke to. You want to have, what happened from the call, whether you left a message, what were the comments from the call, what was said on the call. You just want to have a summary. So then that way, when you speak to them next time, you know exactly what to tell them when you follow up. And then also, I normally keep track of the date. So spreadsheets are great, like when you're first getting started. You may not want to invest in a system. And so this is very helpful because definitely just keep in mind that just in sales in general, that 80% of the people take at least 5 follow-up calls. So of course, everybody's not going to sign up with you. Everybody's not going to maybe even do an appointment with you. The first call, you may talk to them. They may say, I don't know. We're thinking about selling, but we're not sure right now. So in that instance, you can say, okay, well, when can I follow up with you? You definitely need to set a follow-up call. And if they say, I don't know, you can kind of just gauge their interest, say, okay, well, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, but definitely you need to set a follow-up call. So if people don't tell you no, don't let them get off the phone with you without setting up some type of follow-up call. So, okay, we got the comments from the call, we got the follow-up, we got the date and time of that. And then also, if you're using Excel, keep in mind it's not a system, so you'll have to set some type of reminder. So some people would like to use like a Google Calendar or just something so that they can set a reminder of when they need to make the follow-up call. Because sometimes you tell people, okay, I'm going to follow up this date and time, and people are waiting for you to actually follow up and call them. So once you've kind of, let's say you've gone through, done a couple, maybe you do one deal or so, or maybe you just start getting a lot of leads. Because keep in mind too, that once you have, let's say you have about 100 leads, 100 leads is kind of easy to kind of go through in the Excel sheet and know, okay, well, I got to follow up this day, and that day, because you're not going to talk to everybody anyway. But once you start to get about 500 leads or so, and keep in mind too, because like when you're calling people, let's say you have 100 leads, for instance. If you're not using like a predictive dialer or something to actually dial through the numbers, you're going to just maybe start at the first one, keep going through them and calling people at different times so that you can make sure that you're able to get them on the phone. So you can start with an Excel sheet. Definitely don't do it by hand because you will have a lot of people that you start following up with. And so the next thing that I suggest is a contact management database. So a lot of sales companies use these, a CRM, and so contact relationship management. But basically you want to keep track of, actually this is more like a system. So instead of using like an Excel sheet where you're, setting reminders and all these other things, in your contact management database, it's doing it for you. So like once you log into your system, it's probably telling you, okay, well, you got to call this person. Today is, let's say, the 9th or the 8th, So, okay, you got to call these people today. There's 3 people for you to call. So using this database is helpful because it tells you who you need to keep in contact with. You can even some of them have apps for your cell phone, and you can even have it like send a notification to your phone. I use MailChimp. A lot of investors Like I'm sure you see like a lot of people talking about Podio. Podio is a system that a lot of people use, but Podio is something that you have to create from scratch. So I use Nutshell because I just really don't have the time to try to figure out Podio. Podio seems a little complicated, and I really just don't have the time for that. And the thing about it too is that, you know, once you get to the point where you have somebody else making your calls for you, like you outsource your phone calls, you got a telemarketer, you want something that's going to be simple enough for you to be able to explain to other people how to use. And so that's why I went with Nutshell. But I've tried a lot of systems before, like the different trial periods. You know, of course, when you have a lot of people in your office, different people making calls, you got to be very organized. And I found that Nutshell had the simplest look. Like, so the dashboard, everything just looks very simple. And so that's why I chose Nutshell. There's probably some other choices out here by now, because Nutshell, when I signed up for that one, was years ago. So there's probably like some competition and other people who are offering like contact management databases that you can use. But definitely, again, the money's in the follow-up, because again, too, this is real estate. So when you're talking to people, they may not be ready. Like, let's say they got 5 siblings that need to make a decision on the sale. So they may not be ready as soon as you call them. So that's why definitely each person that you speak to, if they don't tell you no, then definitely you need to make sure that you set up a follow-up call with those people, and then call them when they're ready to sell. So that's pretty much about organizing your real estate leads. It's fairly simple, but again, if you don't have a system, if you're just writing everything down by hand, when you start getting a lot of leads, like let's say you're getting them from the courthouse, or you may be buying your list, wherever you're getting them, you can have like 1,000 leads. It's very difficult to be organized and having like 1,000 leads, and you're trying to organize them by hand. And so that's why, you know, like I said, some people don't like Excel, but you can check out like a Google Sheets. Google Sheets is fairly easy to use. It's similar to Excel, but maybe, you know, doesn't look as complicated. So you can try with Google Sheets, and make sure that when you speak to people, again, you're writing down your comments from the call, when you're going to do your follow-up, and for those calls when you speak to your sellers. Does anybody have any questions just about how to organize your real estate leads, like when you're talking to sellers? And you may have, the thing about using a system too is that you're able to categorize the people that you're speaking to. Whereas if you're using like Google Docs or something like that, you may have different spreadsheets or different tabs within your sheet. Okay, this tab is for, you know, sellers. This tab is for investors that I'm meeting with. Because when again, we talked about sellers, but also too, when you're going around, you're networking with different investors, people that you're going to flip your properties to, you also want to keep track of them as well. And it's always good when you're networking with people to set up some type of meeting with them. So you have their business card, but it's really good to kind of reach out to them. Hey, yeah, you know, I met you at such and such. You know, I'd like to try to set up a meeting with you to see how we can work together. So definitely you need to try to connect with people that you meet outside of the event that you meet them at. And so it's always good to have different meetings going on. You need to be in the business of having meetings with people, meeting with sellers and meeting with buyers, and also attending events where you can also just network with people and get their cards and things. So that's it for now. Does anybody have any questions? If you can comment below. Any questions that you have just in regards to organizing your leads. Someone had a question because they weren't savvy with, they said they weren't savvy with like Excel, and so they wanted some advice on how to organize their leads. And so I told them, well, basically, for those who were just tuning in, I was saying that I use Nutshell is what I use, but there's probably some other systems out there that are similar. Okay, so I don't see any questions here. So if you think of anything that you want to ask later, I'll just chime in and I'll answer.